Welcome to the Journey Principles, where we show you how to go from stuck to unstoppable with life strategies that work. Now, here's your host and creator of the Transform You framework, Stephen Scoggins.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Journey Principles. I hope you're doing awesome, and this is an amazing day for you. And we got a day packed full of content here that you're going to enjoy on how to overcome conflict and make things better in your life, where you can actually use conflict to work for you rather than it messing you all up. So if this is your first time here, welcome. We give you life mastery strategies that are simple and easy to understand, along with 3 to 5 items on each show that you can begin to apply in your life right now, today. So with that being said, as always, sitting here with my buddy, Director of Connections, Connor Kraft. Man, what is going on?
Not much, man. I'm excited to dive deeper into this concept of conflict because, like I said on the last
wide
podcast,
and deep, baby.
It really is, and I didn't fully understand it. Like I said on the last podcast, I've even had like talks with him. I've been like, hey man, why do you talk so much about this conflict thing? I don't really get it. And kind of the way that I'm wired is if I don't understand something very much, because I'm a marketing mind, I go to like, if I don't understand it, it's going to be difficult for a lot of people to understand. So nah, can't be that.
You guys didn't see this, but before we hopped on air, he was telling me how high his IQ is.
That's not. Well,
Luckily, he said my daughter's IQ is really high, though.
It is for sure. Yeah.
So I guess she took the test. Now I've got to take the test.
She took the test. I took the test. Now we got to have you take the test, and then we'll see.
I hope I ace it just for fun.
I hope so, too,
I can't
dude.
have you running around saying, I'm smarter than Steven. I'm smarter than Steven. Just kidding. Sorry, we had to goof around. No, in all honesty, guys, on this show, we're going to be talking about how to handle conflict. In the last episode, we talked about the quadrants of conflict, a concept that's uniquely Journey Principles that I mistakenly uncovered and discovered at a keynote I did for the USO at a program called Warrior Reset. If you haven't checked that out, I actually suggest you do, because it actually ties back to the 8 pillars of life. And to watch Connor's face when that happened, when he had the mental connection, it was pretty cool.
I was like, oh my God, wait, you're saying that the foundational 4 are the quadrants?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
He was like, aha, it was funny. So if you're watching on YouTube, you get to see it on his face. If you're listening to podcasts, go ahead and go to Journey Principles with Stephen Scoggins on YouTube.
Oh, Lord.
If nothing else, just so you can subscribe and look at his face when he actually
What did I look like, bro? I'm going to have to go back and watch that now.
And you're not allowed to edit it out either, because now I've talked about it.
All right.
That's how it is, because he'll get with the video, folks. Don't edit it out. But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, look, I want to open it up this way. Another keynote I did on conflict. For what a reason that people deal with conflict. Right. So apparently it's an important subject. I'm glad that you finally agree that it's an important subject.
Yes.
But I find that most people deal with conflict in really one of 2 ways. Some are in the middle, but for the most part, they're one of 2 ways. One is the warrior, right? So I think about King Leonidas from the 300. This is Sparta, right?
Just goes at it.
And kick some guy in the hole, right? And then the other style is more like the priest, where and just kind of sitting there with your hands crossed, and like no matter what happens, you're not going to react. Your facial expression doesn't. Yeah, your expression doesn't change. It's like almost like a monk, kind of thing.
Yeah,
no digs on monks. Here. If we got monk followers, you guys are awesome. I'm just saying, countenance-wise.
Dude, if we have monk followers, then hit me up. Like I've been very fascinated in the monks. I want to learn about you guys.
Well, the kung fu ones are kind of bad. The
Shaolin monks, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, they can like punch through like.
Oh, they can do all kinds of stuff. That shows you how strong your mind is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Why you need to figure out how to control that sucker. What?
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, which way do you lean in dealing with conflict? Are you the kind of guy that likes to kind of try to avoid it, or are you the guy that's more like me that likes to go after it?
I don't know. I feel like I go back and forth, because I don't think I'm purely just like, I'm going to. Well, actually, okay, so with interpersonal conflict, I go for it. I'm just like, yeah. But if it's like an internal thing, I typically avoid it. So, because I'm not, so emotional stuff, I'm not good with, typically, traditionally. If I'm having
For example?
I don't know, like.
How about dealing with team members?
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, Lord. Yeah. So, like, if I have to give someone any kind of critique or anything.
If it's a negative critique.
If it's a negative critique. Although with some situations, I'm okay with it. But if I have a critique that I'm, like, worried will crush somebody, or I'm just so worried will be a big deal to them, and I really have to let them down, and it's a big deal, or in the worst case scenario, I have to fire them or let them go. I avoid that like the plague. Because I feel bad, and also because I've been there, I've made mistakes. I don't want to have to be the person who tells someone that they're not at the point yet where I've been told that.
We're in the times that you were fired. Did it help you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it always taught me a lesson about whatever I was doing wrong.
What the expectation is and how to move forward.
Yeah, I've been fired by you before.
That's right. I'll do it again if you make me. No, you were your termination the first time had more to do with your work ethic, and I think you've addressed that.
My work ethic 4 years ago sucked, and this time around,
it wasn't your IQ or how smart you were, how much value you could bring. I've always saw tremendous potential in you since I've met you. My goal was to try to help you get it out.
Well, yeah, and it actually took me getting let go, and then it was right around the time of actually when we were originally starting the Journey Principles. I don't know if we want to dive too deep into that, but around the time of what happened where you had to step away for a couple of years was around the time that I got let go. So we both stepped away from Journey Principles for a few years, and then we've just come back. Yep. And he came to me, 9 months ago. I think I technically came to him.
Yep.
And then
out of the blue, I got a text message.
Yeah, and he just shared with me. He said, "Hey, I'm bringing it back," and I was like, "I want to volunteer." I was like, "I just want another chance to prove to you that I know that last time I struggled with work ethic. I had a lot of ideas. I still have a lot of ideas. I think that we could do something really special. Last time I let you guys down. I didn't show up, and I want to fix that. And so this time around, I've really, really tried to commit myself to growth and to taking the action and the things that are important. So is it safe to say
that in that particular season, that form of conflict actually helped you grow?
It helped me grow more than anything else ever in my life.
And that's the thing I want everybody to take away from this is conflict and adversity, if you use it properly, will help you grow to levels that you never thought possible. Seriously. Most people who have any level of success, whether it be monetary success or fatherhood success or motherhood success or occupational success or whatever, would tell you that they're successful not because of their wins, but because of their struggles, because of the things that they've learned along the way. You've been very encouraging to me, even on air, about, hey, look, you're a solid leader and all this kind of stuff. Well, I learned those lessons because I was a horrible leader to begin with.
Yeah.
I was a really bad leader.
But you literally tell me, you're like, dude, I
didn't know what I didn't know, which is where self-awareness and understanding how to deal with conflict can be so pivotal. I mean, I had this one time, probably 6 or 8 years ago. I was getting better as a leader, but I still wasn't a great leader. Where I befriended the Ramsey organization and went through EntreLeadership and did that several times, and then bought into their Financial Peace University. Steve Myrick taught me a lot of the same similar principles that what Dave shares, but I wanted my team to experience. Because they didn't have the luxury of Steve, and they didn't really know what they were doing with their money. And I was like, well, look, I'm gonna come up with a profit sharing plan. Well, to do this profit sharing plan, what I'm gonna need is I'm gonna need everybody to go through Financial Peace University. Okay. Now this is before that they had the model that was kind of technically digital online, where you can go through an online school to kind of go through it and stuff like that. This is back in the day where it came in a big box with a big workbook, a journal, an envelope system, they actually called it a Financial Peace kit, right? It reminded me a little bit of an Amway kit because I did Amway back when I was like 18. So it was a lot of stuff.
I started in MLM as well.
Right.
That's how I got into entrepreneurship. I actually
most people discover personal development through MLMs.
Yeah, like the thing is, it has a big stigma around it, and say what you will about that industry, but I will say,
it's a vehicle. It just wasn't my vehicle.
It wasn't what I wanted to stay in. However, it literally, if there was no MLM or network marketing, I wouldn't be here today. I would not have had the very early development in my business and career that I did.
And look, I've got friends that are incredibly successful in a variety of MLMs.
Oh, me too. I'm friends with a lot of the best.
I've got folks that have horror stories, and I think it's like anything else. You get out of it what you make out of it.
Oh, 100%. And I had the privilege early on in my career of actually meeting some of the really, really high level earners. Like, these are people who make 7-8 figures in MLM. And I noticed that these are real legitimate entrepreneurs. Like the people who make it at that level would make it as an actual entrepreneur in a different type of business than that vehicle as well. They're killer salespeople. They have this skill set. Anyway, we're getting off on way too far of a tangent here, but Let's dive back in.
Yeah, so let's dig into conflict a little bit further. So last time we talked about the quadrants. So if one extreme is sticking your head in the sand, which leaves your, I'll say that, leaves your butt exposed, because if your head's in the sand, that means your butt's in the air.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. Right? Or you've got the King Leonidas who's kicking people into a hole. Okay? Where do you think dealing with conflict in a wise capacity is?
In the middle.
Okay, why do you say that?
Because I think that if you go too aggressive, then you can create more conflict, potentially. And if you don't do anything at all or you underreact, you're not going to deal with it quickly enough before more springs up and quickly enough to aptly deal with it. So my gut tells me that it's somewhere in the middle.
It is. Going back to the story that I was sharing just a minute ago, I was trying to implement this Financial Peace University thing. And I wasn't thinking much about it, meaning I was actually unloading. I was ironically unloading the boxes. I had scheduled this thing that I heard Dave say one time. This is back when I was basically just trying to be Dave. He reminded me a lot of Steve Myrick, And he made this comment, the first hour's on me, the second hour's on you kind of deal. So come in, I'll pay you for an hour to be here, and the next hour's on you kind of thing. Well, I'd set that up. I told the team, hey, we're going to run through Financial Peace for the next, I think it was 13 weeks or something like that. We did like one day a week for like 13 weeks. And right before it was getting ready to start, I had this young lady that was working with me. And her and her husband were getting ready to buy their first house. They already had one little girl, and they had a second child on the way. Okay, and I wasn't thinking much about it. Well, she comes up to me. I'm unloading boxes. She comes up to me and she says, "Hey, I was talking to my husband. We really want to take part in the profit sharing plan. Would really help out a whole lot, but we don't believe we can be here for the Financial Peace classes. Will it be okay if we participate in profit sharing?" And I just replied back, "No." Just no.
Very King Leonidas.
Yeah, very King.
This is Sparta rejected.
Yeah. Why would you even?
Yeah.
And I just turned and I began unloading boxes, like just stacking them or whatever. And out of the corner of my ear, I hear. So I turned around and she's crying. I'm like, and I remember saying, I was like, whoa, what just happened? Like, what's going on? And she goes, well, we can't be part of this because we don't have anybody to watch our little girl, and he's working late. I'm like, whoa. I probably should have told you that I'm providing daycare for people to go through this class.
Yeah.
All right. Remember that whole detail thing I struggle with?
Right. You just went straight for the answer and were too direct. You didn't ask for more information.
And here's what I'm getting at. It's sometimes we react out of response. Okay. We're not thinking, we're not being clear. We're simply having a knee-jerk reaction to a specific conflict, hope, and not realizing if it's going to do damage or be right on target. We just don't know. Okay? It's important to understand that you need to have at least a 60-second pause before you probably relinquish some kind of judgment, right? Or bias or whatever.
When you should maybe ask some follow-up questions in that scenario and been like, well, why can't you do it?
Well, check this out. So fast forward, literally up until like a year ago, that one instant came back to me for me to actually allow me to train some of my leadership guys. I was in a closed door meeting with a lot of my executives for one of the businesses I own. We're sitting around a table, and two executives got into it. Not like fist fight, but they got into it like, no, you. Well, if you'd and there was things from everything from aggressiveness being thrown across the table to passive aggressiveness being thrown across the table, which just made the entire thing just be more exacerbated. And I said, and I actually said, stop. And then I told that story. And then I said, we're going to talk about this in this way. Two facets. And this is how you should look at all conflict. Two facets. What are the opportunities? What are the threats?
Like SWAT.
It's exactly what it is. But SWAT for life. They use it in business, but we don't use it for life. We got to make a decision to purchase a house, buy a car, choose a job, marry a spouse, send a kid to college or not send a kid to college. All of those decisions are made a lot of times without a whole lot of thought. Well, this is what everybody else did, right? I've seen fathers who want to make their kids go to college, just make them go to college just because that's what they've been trained to do, right? rather than that same child go off and go work in a trade or being an apprenticeship program or whatever and actually get an actual head start without debt, right?
That's what I did.
What I'm getting at is no matter what the conflict is, whether it's buying a house or whether it's getting married, buying a car, choosing a job, deciding whether to date somebody or whatever, you should always filter it through what are the opportunities and what are the threats, okay? When you look at opportunities and threats combined, what we're actually telling you to do is to apply the GROW framework. Step 1, gain perspective, and as much possible perspective as time allows.
Right.
You want to see that conflict from as many different angles, from your perspective, from someone else's perspective, maybe from a mentor's perspective. You want to see that conflict from any and all angles that you can possibly get an understanding from. And then out of that, you want to dissect what are the opportunities? What are the threats? Well, the threats are going to roll over into the roadblocks, right? So recognize and remove roadblocks.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know what we're talking about, then check out our podcast we did on the GROW framework, and also our whiteboard lesson on YouTube. We did a whiteboard lesson on it as well.
Exactly. Essentially, any conflict, you want to deal with conflict in a conscious manner, not a subconscious manner. Okay? You want to be thinking, right? You can't solve an emotional problem with a logical response, and you can't solve a logical problem with an emotional response.
I've always heard that, yeah.
You just can't, right? A logical problem needs a logical response. A lot of time, believe it or not, an emotional problem needs an emotional response, i.e., you're looking at somebody who just lost their father and they're crying. Well, you going to them and saying, well, I heard he was a good dude. I heard he was a good guy. That's good. And by the way, you're not dead. You're not, do you see what I'm saying? What they want to hear is, hey, look.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
So you have to match it.
I'm here for, it's a form of modeling or mimicking, right? It's how you develop empathy.
Because my brain went to I was thinking, you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it, but I guess that's slightly different. That's not what you're talking about here.
Yeah, it's different. What I mean by that is when someone's going through an emotional problem, if you're going to actually work towards helping them deal with that emotional problem, you want to be able to empathize with what they're going through. And it may not be a big problem to you, right? When I was unloading those boxes, I wasn't really thinking much about anything. You see what I'm saying? I was just unloading the boxes, not thinking much about anything. And it wasn't until after I had the response out of a reaction that I realized that it was a greater issue. There was something unsaid on her part and my part that could have avoided the entire conflict altogether. Okay?
Right.
These two guys in my office or in our conference room were going at it until I stopped them and I said, all right, one of them was actually laying out all the risk and one was laying out all opportunities. So I made the one laying out all the opportunities give me the risk, and I made the one laying out all the risk give me the opportunities.
What happened?
They built a bridge. They found common ground.
Really?
Because it forced them to look at the problem from someone else, from a different perspective than they were coming in with. Bias is powerful. Remember that we talked about on a previous podcast about this kid and the beliefs and how he thought his sandwich had poop on it and it was actually sloppy Joe meat. His mom's like,
yeah, I hated that story. I also hate sloppy Joes. So
yeah, you were probably the little kid and the baby then.
Maybe
it's
I
poop
don't
or whatever.
know.
Beliefs are powerful, right? And your biases are just as powerful. So if you go into a problem already with your mind made up, there's no way you're going to build common ground, right?
Yeah.
So a technique that I like to use, and you can use this in the business world or in the family world dealing with your kids, is make the one who's coming up with all the risk or problems that could happen come up with the solutions, and make the person with the solutions come up with the potential problems.
So you can be too decisive. I guess it's more of a factor of impulsivity. Mm-hmm. If you're too impulsive with your decision making and you don't collect the right information, aka gaining perspective first, it's going to be difficult to actually come to the right answer.
You do not want to go at conflict with a subconscious mindset. You don't want to have it be reactionary. You want to consciously be able to choose how to move forward in the best possible way forward. And the only way to do that is to step back, gain as much perspective with as many different angles as possible, assess what you need to do, and then make a decision and then stick to it. Okay? These are the biggest mistakes I see with people dealing with conflict, whether it's internal, external, it doesn't matter, are one, avoiding it altogether. You cannot avoid conflict. Mm-hmm. If a child who's scared of the dark and the monster can come get them, they put their head under their covers it still doesn't take the fear away. Right? The parent has to come in and look under the bed and check in the closets and whatever and bring it to a sense of stability before it's
It makes you feel a little bit better about it, if I remember correctly.
What is the parent giving the child in that moment, though? More perspective. I've checked the doors. I've checked under the bed.
That's true.
I've checked in the dresser.
Hey, there's no monsters anywhere. We've looked.
Yeah, we've checked it out, right? Now, obviously, I take into account the horror movies. Don't watch horror movies, right?
Yeah, I made that mistake. When I was 8, I watched The Exorcist. Oh,
yeah,
terrifying.
The other two, the other three we've kind of talked about. One is reactionary responses. Avoid reactionary responses. Don't let your subconscious mind make decisions by itself. Let me say that again. Don't let your subconscious mind make decisions by itself.
You need to get in the driver's seat and actually look around.
Exactly. Okay. The other one is not getting enough perspective. Coming at solving a problem with the way you've always solved it means you're going to get the same results you've always gotten. So if you don't get other angles, other opinions, other choices,
you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. Okay.
Exactly. Okay. The other thing too is that I run into is people try to control the uncontrollable.
Okay.
The people that try to control the uncontrollable, it actually increases anxiety, fear, frustration, because they're trying to control an outcome.
It's one of our sources of overwhelm.
It really is. One of my sons, he's definitely a high C-type personality style, very analytical minded. This literally came out of his mind. So we got a brand new puppy.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I found out about the puppy when everybody else found out about the puppy, and that's when my wife says, "Hey, we're on the way home with a new puppy."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Technically, I will tell you, don't be mad at me, but I knew before they were going to get it that they were going to get it. I just didn't warn you. They said it was a surprise.
I don't like surprises like that.
Sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. No, the dog's sweet, but my oldest son has a really hard time with change in general. Okay, so he first saw the dog. He had nothing to do with the dog.
Really?
Nothing to do with that. Didn't want to pick it up. Didn't want to feed it. Didn't want to pet it. Like, just didn't want to deal with it. And then he actually said, so as you know, most puppies are super hyperactive.
Yes.
Okay.
Especially Holly.
Now, and Holly's annoying the crap out of Capone, who's an older dog. Right. And they've managed to figure out their thing, right, between the two of them. But in the process, I remember my oldest son yelling at the top of the buildings, "I don't understand why you won't just sit down." I'm like, dude, she's a puppy. She's not even a year old yet. Like, it's like
she's not even like 3 months old.
Yeah, it's like asking a toddler, "I don't understand why you can't wash the dishes."
Yeah.
It's about as foolish as you could make it. Right? But he was trying to solve an emotional conflict he was having, an internal, with a logical thought process, and doing it totally out of subconscious behavior.
He's doing that because subconsciously his natural tendency is to lead with logic.
Exactly.
Interesting. And that's why you have to know yourself and be self-aware.
Exactly. That's right.
Pieces are all coming together, guys.
Slowly but surely. You know, some conflicts can be avoided. Some can be faced, but they all can be used to build your future. Right? So some things like the thing I use with the financial peace kits, that's a conflict I could have avoided by gaining more perspective, having more understanding. Like, we could have sidestepped the entire thing, right? Dealing with a conflict with a couple of leaders that are gonna rub each other wrong, especially when we work how we work in a close-knit, tight family, right? We argue like family from time to time, but we also fight for each other like family from time to time.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And those are some of the different ways that I feel like is the best way for you to actually overcome and deal with conflict on a regular basis. I like to say, if you want to overcome conflict, use the GROW framework.
Apply GROW.
You can use it any way. You can use it for a variety of circumstances, and conflict is just one of those things that makes total sense. Gain perspective, recognize and remove roadblocks, aka threats and risk. Organize a plan, organize a way forward, and simply work the plan or take the step.
Absolutely. And again, to learn more about that, if you haven't already, check us out on YouTube. We have videos, entire videos, whiteboard lessons, etc. We talk a lot about GROW, and GROW is essentially like the umbrella that we fit our entire curriculum under, because those 4 core steps are really all that's required to make change in your life. And everything we teach, from conflict to the pillars to relationships to everything, fits under one of those 4 steps or multiple.
Yeah, I would refer to, I'm going to start referring to GROW as our 4-phase process.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
And the reason being is because if you think about pretty much everything we talked about, everything that we've been talking about all goes in the gaining perspective.
Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase
Yep.
4.
So phase 1 is gaining as much perspective as you can in a variety of different ways that we've got organized.
That's funny.
What?
This is actually funny. We talked about me being fired last time, so I'm going to flex a little bit.
Yeah, what?
I'm going to flex a little bit. Last time, I told you guys to do it that way, and you guys didn't take my advice. Last time when we were doing JP, I said, hey, guys, I think you should put the entire curriculum underneath Grow. And you guys were like, oh, yeah, that's a cool idea, but we're going to go in a different direction. But I'm glad that we're circling back and you see it now, because I always thought that would be cool. I just always thought it would make sense.
Do you feel better now?
I don't feel better.
Do you have unresolved conflict that you've been harboring? No, I think it makes the most sense as we start to dig into things. Grow was one of the first concepts that we put together. Because I remember you asking me, it's like, how do you summarize it all? I'm like, I don't know. You want to get perspective, and you got to remove roadblocks. And,
For sure.
And then I had in my journal Grow, or I actually had GRO.
Right.
And I didn't have the W. And then later on, you came to me, dude, grow. It's Grow.
Yeah.
Gain perspective, recognize roadblocks, organize a plan, work a plan. I'm like, did you read my journal?
No, I didn't. We just, dude, great minds think alike. It was crazy. Literally, I remember you smiled at me that day when I brought you that. You're like, you just finished my thing. And I was like, sweet, awesome. So,
which is good. No, we have a lot of concepts, a lot of content, and a lot of processes within processes, which is why when you're trying to make life mastery simple, when you're trying to make a difference, when you're trying to actually make progress, you got to follow a plan, period. You're not going to stumble into it. You're not going to just, oh my gosh, epiphany your way into it. There's no way to get to where you want to go without following a process and a plan.
Well, right, and you have to follow it, actually take action. You're not going to read an extra book, or unfortunately, I wish it was the case, but you're not going to watch one of our videos and then immediately have all the things in your life
there's no way
changed.
to do that. And unfortunately, that if you go into, and I think you experienced this yourself, if you go into just digesting content mode, and that's all you do is digest content,
right,
then you're going to be stuck.
Well, yeah, and I spent years just not implementing, or I implemented it a little bit, but it was bare minimum because I just preferred to learn. I really enjoyed that part. I did only the things that I liked doing, and I didn't like some of the harder work because these things, a lot of these concepts, that they do work, but they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that tomorrow, but today I'm going to read another book about it.
Yeah. Which unfortunately doesn't help you very much.
No, it didn't.
Anyway, we're going to wrap up today's show. I hope that gives you some steps on how to kind of beginning to work with conflict. We're developing a ebook resource on conflict as an entirety. I will discuss in detail the concept that we have called the 7 Enemies of Identity.
Right.
We may do a podcast and a whiteboard and some other things on it.
I'm sure we will.
It's a little more difficult to communicate in a very short window of time.
Right.
But if not, we'll create a resource where you can get your hands on it to make sure that works for you. If you've got questions at journeyprinciples.com. If you want to take advantage of any of the free resources we have, from the five principles you must have to get a breakthrough, 7 relationships you must have to win at life.
Discover what drives you.
For
each of our 3 core things that you can do to transform your life, we have created an ebook resource. So if you want to really get started and take this to the next level, we highly recommend go to journeyprinciples.com/resources, grab all 3, and that'll get you started.
And if you want to talk to us after that, feel free not to. It's fine. But
whatever.
Seriously, no, we're here to help you and want to help you win. So with that being said, we'll see you again on the next Journey Principles. Take care, guys. Bye. I'll see you in the next video. And please, if you don't mind and you enjoyed the life mastery content we're building, consider hitting the subscribe button and also hitting the bell so you'll be the first to get notified anytime we release new content.